Look, it is fanciful to imagine that the Albanese government can navigate their way around this awful mess of debt without embracing the urgency of tax reform and expenditure cuts. I've long argued that with 250,000 Commonwealth bureaucrats sitting on their bums in Canberra, why can't they fashion sensible and simple proposals for both? Because we can't go on the way we are. You'd have to predicate any argument for reform by asking a few simple questions. Can we any longer afford superannuation tax breaks, which are expected to cost almost $90 billion over the next 4 years? Should we be exempting food, education and health from the GST, which costs revenue well over $20 billion a year when we've got a welfare system to look after those in need? Why don't we collect the unpaid HECS debts? Or do we allow students to go on borrowing and not repaying? Unpaid HECS debts currently total $96 billion. Why are we subsidising foreign outfits who own wind farms? Renewable subsidies are almost $3 billion a year. The welfare bill increases every year. It was $196 billion in 2020, $196,000 million. How many Australians are taking the taxpayer for a ride? You can't go to an accountant or a lawyer or a dentist or get your fence painted or the gutters cleaned for nothing. But you can go to a doctor, not really for nothing, because the taxpayer forks out. Medicare in 2012 cost $19 billion. In 2022, $30 billion. Tony Abbott talked about a Medicare co-payment. New Zealand have one. Why can't we pay something before the bulk of our visit to the doctor is charged to Medicare? If we're talking about expenditure, are we seriously suggesting there are approximately 250,000 public servants in Canberra and they can't identify room for cuts in those monumental amounts? I've only mentioned a few. It's beyond belief. There's no use complaining unless we can offer reform, which is urgently needed. There are spasmodic comments that tax reform and expenditure cuts are needed, especially in the wake of the March 29 budget, littered with further spending. The new Treasurer Chalmers complains about the spending and debt mess he has inherited. Well, he can do something about it and argue for cuts in spending. And if he doesn't, does he think it's sustainable that the deficit for the coming financial year should stay at $78 billion or more? What will we see in the October cost of living relief package? More spending. I'm not saying that things can be implemented without serious debate, but you think of the hundreds of millions of dollars that was spent as the government's response to the pandemic without any debate. And we're now heading for $1 trillion plus of debt.